The dawn broke cold and gray over Ethan Hale's barley fields when he heard the frantic pounding on his barn door, a sound that sent him reaching for the hunting knife he kept beside his bed. He had lived alone on the frontier homestead for 3 years since his father passed, and unexpected visitors before sunrise rarely brought good news. When he threw open the door with his knife drawn, he found not bandits or wolves but 2 orc women collapsed against the wooden frame, their ceremonial robes torn and muddy, their faces streaked with exhaustion and terror. The taller one looked up at him with amber eyes that held equal parts desperation and defiance. "Please," she gasped, her tusks catching the pale light. "Hide us and we will work your land. We have nowhere else to go." Ethan's mind raced through a dozen reasons to slam the door. Orcs meant trouble. The clans raided settlements along the border. His neighbors already thought him strange for living so far from the village. But the shorter orc woman had begun to weep silently, her shoulders shaking, and something in that broken sound made his decision for him. "Get inside," he said, stepping back. "Quickly." They stumbled past him into the dim barn, and he barred the door behind them. In the strengthening light filtering through the slats, he could see them more clearly now. Both wore elaborate dresses of deep crimson and gold, the kind meant for special occasions, now ruined by their flight. The taller one had her dark hair braided with silver beads that clinked softly as she moved. The shorter had flowers wilting in her loosened braids. "I am Brenna," the taller one said, straightening despite her obvious exhaustion. "This is my sister Bella. We fled our clan 2 days ago. They will be hunting us." "Why?" Ethan asked, though he already regretted getting involved. "What did you do?" Bella lifted her tear-stained face. "We were meant to marry chieftains from the northern clans," she said, her voice hoarse. "Old warriors with 3 wives already. Brenna was promised to one who beat his current wives. I was to wed a man who is killed for sport. Our father arranged it to secure alliances," Brenna added bitterly. "We are property to be traded. When we refused, he locked us in the ceremonial lodge. We escaped during the feast." Ethan lowered his knife and ran a hand through his hair. This was worse than he thought. Runaway orc brides would bring searchers, possibly an entire war party. His homestead sat on the border between human and orc territories, isolated enough that no one would hear him scream if they decided he had kidnapped the women. Yet looking at their faces, at the genuine fear there, he found he could not turn them away. "There is a root cellar beneath the farmhouse," he said finally. "It has a hidden entrance my grandfather built during the last border war. You can hide there during the day, but if you are serious about working, I have more land than I can manage alone. The harvest season is coming." Brenna's eyes widened. "You would trust us." "I would give you a chance," Ethan corrected. "Same thing my father gave me when everyone said I was too young to run this place. Come on before full light." He led them across the yard to his modest farmhouse, a sturdy structure of timber and stone that had housed 3 generations of Hales. Inside, he moved the kitchen table aside and pulled up a hidden trapdoor, revealing steep stairs descending into darkness. "There are blankets and water down there," he explained. "I will bring food when I can do so without arousing suspicion. Stay quiet during the day. These walls are thick, but sound carries." The sisters descended into the cellar, and Ethan replaced the door and table. His hands were shaking slightly as he began his morning routine, the enormity of what he had done settling over him. He had just sheltered fugitive orcs. If their clan found them here, he would be executed without trial. If his human neighbors learned of it, he would be driven out as a traitor. Yet something in Brenna's proud bearing and Bella's desperate tears had called to a part of him that remembered his own father refusing to abandon a family of refugees during a hard winter. even when the village council had ordered it. The day passed with agonizing slowness. Ethan worked his fields, constantly scanning the horizon for riders. He saw only the usual traffic along the distant road, farmers heading to market, a patrol of village militia. When evening finally came, he brought down bread, cheese, dried meat, and fresh water. The sisters sat close together on a pile of blankets, and he noticed they had tidied the cellar, organizing the stored supplies into neat rows. Brenna stood when he entered, and he was struck again by her height. She matched him easily, unusual even for an orc woman. "Thank you," she said simply. "You risk much for strangers. Tell me if anyone comes looking," Ethan replied. "I need to know what I am watching for." "Our father will send trackers," Bella said quietly. She looked younger than Brenna, perhaps 20 to her sisters 23 or so. "They can follow a trail 3 days old across stone, but the rain last night may have helped us. They will also send word to the border settlements," Brenna added. "They will claim we were kidnapped or bewitched. They cannot admit we fled by choice. It would shame the chieftains who paid bride prices for us." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we need a story. If anyone asks, you are hired workers from the Western Territories. Some orc clans there have peaceful trade with humans. It is not common but not unheard of." "You have thought about this," Brenna observed, and he thought he detected approval in her tone. "I have thought about little else all day," he admitted. "This is madness, but it is my madness now." Over the following days they established a careful routine. The sisters hid in the cellar when anyone might pass by, but otherwise they worked alongside Ethan in the fields. He learned quickly that they had not exaggerated their willingness to labor. Brenna could lift sacks of grain he struggled with, while Bella had a keen eye for spotting weeds and pests among the crops. They worked from dawn until dusk, asking for nothing beyond simple food and shelter. On the fourth evening, as they sat outside the barn eating a modest supper of vegetable stew, Ethan asked the question that had been bothering him. "Why come to a human? Surely you have allies among your own people." Brenna shook her head. "Those who disagreed with our father's choice would not shelter us openly. It would mean war between families, and those loyal to him would return us immediately. We hoped a human might not care enough about orc clan politics to betray us." "You gambled your lives on apathy," Ethan said. "We gambled on the chance that one human might be different," Bella corrected softly. "Like the stories our mother told us when we were young about humans who showed mercy even to orcs." "Your mother?" Ethan asked. Brenna's expression hardened. "Dead these 5 years. If she lived, this marriage would never have happened. Our father became someone else after she passed." They fell into silence, and Ethan found himself studying Brenna in the fading light. She held herself like a warrior despite the farming clothes she now wore, borrowed from his father's old things. There was a strength in her that went beyond physical power, a core of iron determination that he recognized in himself. Bella was gentler, more openly afraid, but she never complained and worked until exhaustion took her each night. 2 weeks passed, and then 3. The harvest grew closer, and Ethan knew he would need their help to bring it in on time. He began to relax slightly, to hope that perhaps the clan had given up the search. Then one morning he returned from checking his northern fence line to find Bella standing rigid at the window, her face drained of color. "Riders," she whispered. 3 of them. Orcs." Ethan's stomach dropped. "The cellar now." "They will smell us," Brenna said, appearing from the back room. "Orc trackers can scent family members if they search the house." "Then they will find me refusing to let strangers search my property," Ethan said firmly. "Get down there. Stay silent no matter what you hear." The sisters hesitated only a moment before disappearing below. Ethan replaced the trapdoor and table, then grabbed his father's sword from above the mantel. He had no illusions about fighting 3 orc warriors, but he would not face them unarmed. The pounding on his door was hard enough to rattle the frame. When he opened it, he found himself facing 3 orc males in clan colors, all bearing weapons. The lead warrior was massive, with scars crossing his green face and tusks filed to sharp points. "We seek 2 females who fled from the Ironhide clan," the warrior said without preamble. "You have seen them." "I have seen no orcs except you 3, Ethan replied, keeping his voice steady. "This is my land, you have no business here." The warrior's eyes narrowed. "You are Ethan Hale. Your family is known as fair dealers. We do not wish conflict, but the females are promised wives who broke sacred vows. Their father demands their return." "Their father wants property returned, you mean?" Ethan said, surprising himself with his boldness. "I've heard how the Ironhide clan treats daughters." The warrior took a step forward, hand on his weapon. "You speak of things you do not understand, human. Our ways are not yours." "Then search elsewhere," Ethan said. "I have work to do." For a long moment the warriors stared at him. Ethan could feel sweat running down his back despite the cool morning air. If they pushed past him, if they found the cellar, he was dead. But the lead warrior finally grunted and turned away. "We will watch the borders," he called back. "If you see them, send word to the Ironhide settlement. There is a reward." Ethan waited until they were out of sight before releasing the breath he had been holding. He wanted to go immediately to the cellar, but forced himself to wait a full hour, working in his garden where he could watch the roads. Only when he was certain they had truly gone did he return inside. The sisters emerged shaking. Bella threw her arms around Ethan without warning, and he stood frozen, unsure how to respond to the sudden embrace. Over her shoulder, he saw Brenna watching him with an unreadable expression. "You could have given us up," Bella sobbed against his chest. "There was a reward. You could have been rid of us." "I do not take rewards for betraying people who trust me," Ethan said awkwardly, patting her shoulder. "But they will be watching now. We need to be more careful." Brenna pulled her sister gently away. "You have done more than we had any right to ask," she said to Ethan. "We should leave before we bring worse trouble on you." "And go where?" Ethan demanded. "They are watching the borders. You would be caught within a day." "Then what do you suggest?" Brenna asked, and he heard frustration in her voice. "We cannot hide forever." "No," Ethan agreed. "But you can become who we claimed you are, workers from the Western Territories who came seeking employment. If anyone asks, you have been here for months. I will coach you on the local area on human customs. In time, you will simply be part of the landscape. People see what they expect to see." It was a desperate plan, but the sisters seized on it. Over the following weeks, as summer deepened toward autumn, Ethan taught them everything he could think of. He showed them how to speak of the local villages as if they had visited them, described the human festivals and customs they should know. In turn, they taught him about orc agriculture techniques that could improve his yields, about the properties of plants he had considered mere weeds. The work drew them together in ways Ethan had not anticipated. He found himself looking forward to morning conversations over breakfast, to Bella's shy jokes and Brenna's rare smiles. He noticed small things: how Brenna always rose first to start the cooking fire, how Bella hummed while she worked, how both sisters moved with an unconscious grace despite their strength. One evening in late summer, as they sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Bella suddenly asked, "Why do you live alone out here, Ethan? You are young still and kind. Surely there are women in the village who would marry you." Ethan shrugged uncomfortably. "The women in the village want men who stay in the village, who trade or craft. They do not want a farmer who spends his days covered in dirt, miles from anywhere. and I cannot leave this land. It is my family's legacy." "Then they are fools," Brenna said quietly. "This land is beautiful. What you have built here is worthy of pride." He turned to look at her, startled by the warmth in her voice. In the golden light, with her hair loose around her shoulders, she looked almost ethereal despite her orcish features. He realized with a start that he had stopped seeing her as an orc woman weeks ago. She was simply Brenna, steady and strong and frustratingly beautiful. The realization troubled him. He lay awake that night thinking about the impossibility of what he was feeling. Human and orc relationships existed only in bawdy tavern jokes and cautionary tales. His neighbors would never accept it. Her people would kill him for even considering it. Yet he could not stop his thoughts from returning to the curve of her smile, the way she listened when he spoke of his dreams for the farm. Harvest season arrived like an avalanche of work. The three of them labored from dawn past dusk, bringing in wheat and barley, preserving vegetables, preparing the farm for winter. Bella proved to have a gift for brewing and preserving, creating stores that would last months. Brenna worked the heavy harvesting with tireless strength. Ethan coordinated everything, marveling at how much they could accomplish together. He hired 2-day workers from the village for a week during the heaviest harvesting, and they accepted the sisters without question. The fiction of Western Territory workers held up perfectly. One of the men even commented approvingly on how much work Ethan had gotten done this year, saying his father would be proud. As autumn painted the trees in brilliant colors, the farm settled into a comfortable rhythm. The immediate danger seemed to have passed. No more trackers came. The sisters began to relax, to laugh more freely, to plan ahead as if they might actually have a future here. Then came the night of the autumn festival. The village held a celebration each year to mark the successful harvest, with food and music and dancing. Ethan had always attended alone before, but this year Bella begged to go, wanting to see human festivities. "It is too dangerous," Brenna said firmly. "We should not risk exposure." "We have been here for months," Bella argued. "Everyone thinks we are just workers." "And I am so tired of hiding, sister. Please." Ethan found himself siding with Bella. She is right. If you are to truly live here, you cannot hide forever, and if people see you at the festival acting normally, it will only strengthen the fiction. Brenner reluctantly agreed, though Ethan could see the worry in her eyes. They dressed in their best clothes, simple but clean, and walked the 3 miles to the village as the sun set. Ethan found himself intensely aware of Brenna walking beside him, of the way the evening light caught in her dark hair. The festival was already in full swing when they arrived, with tables of food laid out in the village square and musicians playing cheerful tunes. Several farmers Ethan knew greeted him warmly and nodded to the sisters. For the first hour, everything went perfectly. Bella tried human pastries and danced with some of the village boys, giggling at their awkward attempts to match her strength. Brenna stayed closer to Ethan, seeming content to watch. "You should dance," Ethan said impulsively. "I do not know human dances," Brenner replied. "Neither do half the people out there," he said with a smile. "That has never stopped anyone." He offered his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. They joined the dancing couples in the square, and Ethan tried to show her the simple steps. She picked them up quickly, moving with natural grace, and he found himself pulling her closer than was strictly proper. Up close, he could see flecks of gold in her amber eyes, could smell the clean scent of the soap she used. "This was a good idea," she said softly. "Thank you for giving Bella this night." "Thank you for trusting me enough to come," Ethan replied. They were moving through a turn when someone bumped into them roughly. Ethan turned to find a drunk man he vaguely recognized from the village, glaring at Brenna. Orc lover. The man spat at Ethan. Bad enough we let them work our lands. Now you are dancing with them like they are people. The music had stopped. People were turning to stare. Ethan felt Brenna tense beside him, saw her starting to pull away. Without thinking, he tightened his hold on her hand. She is a person, Ethan said clearly, his voice carrying in the sudden silence. She is more hardworking and honest than most people I know, and I will dance with whoever I choose. The drunk man sneered. Your father would be ashamed, Hale, consorting with monsters. My father taught me to judge people by their actions, not their blood, Ethan shot back. Brenna has done nothing but help me bring in the best harvest my farm has ever seen. What have you done besides drink yourself stupid? A few people laughed at that, breaking the tension. The village elder, a kindly man named Marcus, stepped forward and put a hand on the drunk's shoulder. That is enough, Tom. Go sleep it off. Ethan is right. These women have caused no trouble and worked hard. They are welcome at our festival. The drunk man shook him off and staggered away, muttering. The music slowly resumed, but the moment was broken. Brenna looked shaken and Bella had gone pale. Ethan led them away from the square, heading back toward the farm. They walked in silence for the first mile. Finally, Brenna spoke. You defended me, in front of your entire village. He was being an idiot, Ethan said. He was saying what many of them think, Brenna replied. You have made yourself an outsider for us. I was already an outsider, Ethan said. I chose this land and this life. I choose my friends the same way, by what feels right. Bella had walked ahead, giving them space. Brenna stopped suddenly, turning to face Ethan in the moonlight. Why? She asked. Why have you done all this? Hiding us, defending us, risking everything. We are nothing to you. You are not nothing, Ethan said, the words coming before he could stop them. You have never been nothing. From that first morning when you asked for help, you have been brave and strong and loyal. You work harder than anyone I know. You make me laugh. You understand this land the way I do. And somewhere along the way you stopped being strangers and became. He trailed off, unsure how to finish. Brenna was staring at him, her amber eyes wide. Became what? She whispered. Everything, Ethan said simply. You became everything. For a long moment they stood frozen. Then Brenna stepped forward and kissed him, her tusks brushing his cheeks, her hands gentle on his face despite their strength. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, the world narrowing to just the two of them in this perfect, impossible moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Brenna rested her forehead against his. This is madness, she said. I have noticed, Ethan replied. Do you want to stop? No, she said fiercely. But Ethan, my people will never accept this, and yours barely tolerate my presence. We would face opposition from all sides. Then we face it together, Ethan said. I am done living by other people's rules. This is my land, my life, my choice, and I choose you if you will have me. Brenna kissed him again by way of answer, and this time Ethan let himself truly feel it, the impossibility and rightness of it all. When they finally continued home, they walked hand in hand, no longer hiding what had grown between them. Bella greeted them with a knowing smile when they arrived. Finally, she said, I thought you two would dance around each other forever. The next weeks brought a new joy to the farm. Ethan and Brenna no longer hid their affection, though they remained cautious when visitors came. Bella seemed genuinely happy for them, and even began talking about visiting the village herself, about perhaps finding work at the tavern. Winter was approaching when the second crisis came. Ethan had gone to the village for supplies and returned to find both sisters standing in the yard, their faces grave. Behind them stood an elderly orc woman in traveling clothes. This is grandmother Varka, Brenna said quietly. She was our mother's aunt. She has been searching for us. Ethan's hand went to his knife, but the old woman raised a weathered hand. "Peace, human. I come not to take them back, but to warn them. Their father has declared them dead. He performed the death rites before the clan. In his eyes and in orc law, Brenna and Bella no longer exist." "What does that mean?" Ethan asked. "It means they are free," Varka said. "But it also means they can never return. If they set foot in orc lands, anyone may kill them without consequence. They are cast out completely." Bella made a small sound of pain, and Brenna's face remained carefully blank. Ethan moved to stand beside them, his hand finding Brenna's. "They have a home here," he said firmly, "for as long as they want it." Varka's sharp eyes moved between them, noting their joined hands. "I see. Well, that makes things simpler, I suppose. I brought their mother's belongings, the things their father would have destroyed, and I bring a warning. The chieftains who paid bride prices are angry. They feel cheated. They may send warriors seeking vengeance to save face." "Let them come," Ethan said. "This is my land. I will defend it and everyone on it." The old woman smiled, showing filed tusks. "You have spirit, young human. My niece chose her daughters names for courage and beauty. I see she also raised them to recognize worth in unexpected places." She turned to the sisters. "Your mother would be proud of you both. Live well, my girls. Live free." She left a small chest of belongings and departed as suddenly as she had come. Brenna opened the chest with shaking hands to find her mother's jewelry, some books, and a bundle of letters. She clutched them to her chest, silent tears running down her face. Ethan held her while she wept, while Bella cried beside them, mourning the final severing of their old life. But the mourning did not last long. Both sisters had chosen their path, and they embraced it fully. As winter settled over the farm, they worked together to prepare for the cold months. Ethan taught them human winter traditions, and they taught him orc songs and stories. They were building something new, a family bound not by blood or tradition but by choice. On the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, Ethan made his own choice. He had spent weeks carving a small wooden ring, working by candlelight while the sisters slept. It was not fancy, but it was made with love and care. He waited until they had finished the solstice feast Bella had prepared, until the fire burned low and comfortable. "Brenna," he said, his voice not quite steady, "when you came here, I thought I was giving you shelter for a few days. I never imagined you would become my partner, my equal, my best friend. I never imagined I could feel this way about anyone. But I do, and I cannot imagine my life without you in it." He pulled out the ring, and Brenna's eyes went wide. "I know we cannot have a legal marriage. I know human churches will not wed us and your people would never accept it. But I do not care about legal or official. I care about real. And this, what we have, is the realest thing I have ever known. So I am asking you, Brenna Hale, if you will take my name, will you marry me? Will you be my wife in all the ways that matter?" Brenna stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Bella burst into tears of joy, and they spent the rest of the evening planning a ceremony. They decided to hold it in the spring, on the farm itself, and invite only those who would truly celebrate with them. It would be small and unofficial, but it would be theirs. Winter passed slowly but comfortably. The three of them grew closer, a strange little family made by choice and circumstance. Bella began disappearing to the village more often, and eventually admitted she had been courting a blacksmith's apprentice named Daniel, a shy young man who did not care that she was an orc. "It seems love is infectious," Bella said with a grin. "Daniel wants to meet you both properly. He is nervous but willing." They invited him to dinner, and the young man proved to be earnest and clearly smitten with Bella. He treated her with careful respect, and Ethan saw him relax when he realized he would not be judged for his choice. Before he left, Daniel asked for Bella's hand in marriage, directing the question to Brenna as the elder sister. Brenna laughed and told him to ask Bella herself, that she was her own person. Bella said yes before he finished asking. Spring arrived with an explosion of green growth and new possibilities. Ethan, Brenna, and Bella worked together to plan 2 weddings for the same day. They invited only a handful of people. Marcus, the village elder who had always been kind, Daniel and his family, who had accepted Bella completely, and grandmother Varka, who made the dangerous journey to attend. On a bright morning in late spring, with wildflowers blooming across the fields, they gathered in front of the farmhouse. Marcus agreed to officiate, speaking words about love and choice and commitment. It was not a traditional ceremony by human or orc standards, but it was beautiful in its sincerity. Ethan and Brenna spoke their vows first. He promised to stand beside her always, to honor her strength and her gentleness, to build a life together based on respect and love. She promised the same, her voice clear and strong, her amber eyes never leaving his face. When they exchanged rings, crude and homemade but precious beyond gold, Ethan felt a completeness he had never known before. Bella and Daniel followed, equally heartfelt in their promises. Watching his sister-in-law marry, Ethan marveled at how much had changed in less than a year. What had begun with a desperate plea in the darkness had become something none of them could have imagined. After the ceremonies, they feasted on food Bella and Varka had prepared together, dishes blending human and orc traditions. Marcus told stories of Ethan's father, who he said would have approved wholeheartedly. Daniel's family proved welcoming and curious, asking respectful questions about orc culture. As the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Ethan stood with his arm around Brenna's waist and felt profoundly grateful for that dawn when he had opened his barn door to find 2 frightened women asking for help. "You ever regret it?" Brenna asked softly, as if reading his thoughts. "Taking us in. Your life would be simpler if you had turned us away." "Simpler, maybe," Ethan agreed, "but infinitely lonelier and far less happy. I would make the same choice 1,000 times over." She kissed him as the stars began to emerge overhead, and he heard Bella laughing with her new husband somewhere nearby. The farm that had once been too big for one man now felt full in the best way possible, alive with voices and love and possibility. Grandmother Varka approached them before she left the next morning. "You have built something rare here," she said. "A place where love matters more than tradition, where people are judged by their hearts rather than their blood. Guard it well. And know that you carry my blessing, for whatever that is worth." "It is worth everything," Brenna said, embracing her. "Thank you for giving us the courage to choose this path." As the years passed, the farm prospered beyond anything Ethan had imagined. Word spread slowly about the homestead where orcs and humans lived and worked together, and occasionally other outcasts found their way to his door. He never turned away anyone in genuine need, and his household grew into a small community of people who had chosen each other over the narrow confines of their birth. Bella and Daniel built a house on the eastern edge of the property and started a family of their own. Their children, born with Daniel's human features but their mother's green-tinted skin and small tusks, became symbols of what was possible when love bridged seemingly impossible divides. Ethan and Brenna had children too, 3 daughters who grew up strong and proud, taught to honor both sides of their heritage. They worked the land their father and mother had built together, learning human farming techniques and orc agricultural wisdom side by side. Sometimes, late at night when the children were asleep, Ethan would sit on his porch with Brenna beside him and remember that desperate morning when she had pounded on his barn door. He thought about all the ways he might have turned her away, all the reasonable fears that could have closed his heart to her plea. He thought about the impossible chain of choices that had led them to this moment, her courage in fleeing, his decision to help, their slow-growing love, their determination to build a life against all odds. "What are you thinking about?" Brenna would ask, her hand finding his in the darkness. "About how lucky I am," Ethan would always answer. "About how one choice to show kindness changed everything." "It changed everything for me too," she would reply. "You gave me more than shelter that morning. You gave me freedom, partnership, love. You gave me a life I never dreamed I could have." And sitting there in the peaceful darkness, surrounded by the land they had built together and the family they had chosen and created, Ethan knew with absolute certainty that he had received far more than he had given. Brenna and Bella had not just worked his land in exchange for shelter. They had worked their way into his heart, transformed his lonely farm into a home, and shown him that the bravest thing anyone could do was open their door to possibility, even when fear counseled otherwise. The seasons continued their eternal cycle, but the farm and its unusual family endured. They faced challenges, certainly. Prejudice did not disappear overnight, and there were always those who looked at their mixed household with suspicion or disdain. But there were also more who saw what they had built and felt hope, who began to question the old hatreds and divisions. In time, Ethan's farm became known throughout the frontier as a place where the impossible was real, where orc and human children played together in the fields, where love had proved stronger than tradition. Travelers would sometimes stop just to see it for themselves. This homestead that had begun with 2 desperate women and 1 man willing to take a chance. And on quiet evenings, when the work was done, and the family gathered around the dinner table, sharing food and laughter and the easy comfort of people who truly belonged together, Ethan would catch Brenna's eye across the room and see his own contentment reflected there. They had built something worth having, worth fighting for, worth every risk they had taken. They had built a home, a family, and a love that transcended every boundary meant to keep them apart. That first dawn when Brenna had gasped those desperate words, "Hide us, and we will work your land," neither of them could have known how those words would shape their future. But Ethan had made his choice, and Brenna had trusted him with hers, and together they had proven that sometimes the most unlikely seeds grow the strongest roots. Their story was not written in any official records, would never be celebrated in songs or histories. But it was real, and it was theirs, and that was more than enough.